Hello and welcome in everybody to a Sunday edition of Roll Pod. Roll Pod reaction. Alabama coming off a 30-14 win over Vanderbilt in Bryant-Denny Stadium. I am going to start this off with a little bit of breaking news. Alabama picking up a commitment coming off the weekend. Actually, it's second commitment of the weekend. Jared Dowdy, a top offensive tackle target in the 2026 class out of the Peach State, picks Alabama kind of exploding offers over from Georgia, Ohio State, and some others over their last couple of weeks. So big pickup at a position of need for Alabama, up to 22 total commitments for the 26 class. More content on Bama247. Mike, Alex, how are we doing today?
Good. 22. How many more do you think we're looking at? Or we got to be near
the end. You kind of look at some of them. It's USC and Georgia 30 plus. Alabama was never going to go into that range. I think we all knew that. Probably 2 to 3 more. And then it's kind of portal talk. I think we're probably going to get into. May talk a little bit about that today. I don't know. But like I said at the top of the show, Alabama handled their business, I think, and then some. I think there's Mike, I'll start with you because, and Alex as well, you circled this game forever and ever in the offseason. Out of the Georgia game, it was always about this Vanderbilt game. Mike, takeaways coming out of Saturday.
Talk dirty to me. Talk portal talk. Yeah. No, I won't talk portal yet. Takeaways for the game. I think I wrote about this morning. It's very much like a dichotomy between it felt like the old school Alabama, like we're going to shut up the people who think that they're coming after us, who are trying to climb up the ladder, who are challenging Alabama. Mm-hmm. The whole we want Bama thing of 10 years ago that came up, and like, no, you don't want Bama. People always told you that. And it kind of felt like that. Like you had obviously talking from the Vandy side this week, and Alabama shut them down in terms of the result of the game, but it wasn't 70-0. It wasn't like the 2017 game where, Saban's talked about it a few times already this year that I think Vandy had just beaten Kansas State the week before. And they're talking about, we got Vandy next, or we got Alabama next in the schedule. And you came in, you just completely shut them down. It wasn't that sort of game.
Jalen Hurts' reaction to that will forever be burned in my brain. Yes, technically they are next.
Theoretically next in our schedule. Theoretically. And that was like, people love that. There was like a certain energy that came out of that era of Alabama football, that era of college football, that era of the SEC. We're not in it anymore. And at the same time as it felt like old times, you literally had Johnny Manziel on the sideline, like old times. It wasn't. And you had Vandy come in and score against you early. They were up 14-7. They were tied 14-14 at halftime. They had the ball, the 17-yard line, 12 minutes left in the game with a chance to score a touchdown. Would have put them in the lead. Mm-hmm. That's not how it used to be. And I wrote it this morning. Like, if that was the case, like Nick Saban would be throwing his headset. People would be going bonkers over that. There would be mass chaos and consternation over why is Vanderbilt within 10 points of us? Why were they within 20 points of us? It's different. Vanderbilt's obviously a lot better. The SEC is a lot more wide open, and this is how it's going to be going forward. So it was kind of the old and the new to me. I don't think it wasn't proving Diego Pavia wrong necessarily. Like, obviously he was wrong in the sense that the game wasn't close, like that it wasn't going to be a blowout in Vandy's favor. He wasn't wrong in that way, but his confidence wasn't completely unjustified. Like, they came in and they looked like they belonged on the field with Alabama. It wasn't completely a mismatch. So I don't know. Both sides are right. And at the end of the day, I think Kalen DeBoer is trying to get his players not to worry about that because they clearly did it too much before Florida State, and Tommy Castellanos and disrespect will be addressed accordingly. And I think he's tried to really steer them away mentally from that sort of thing. And he said after the game, maybe a couple things pop up that I have to address. Maybe James Smith calling Diego Pavia a bitch after the game on the field might be one of those. But I think in general, like, he just wants his players not to think about that. Whatever they're saying on the other side, just let it go and just play your game, because that's worked for them these past 4 games. And I think Ty is feeding into that energy. I think Ty is, all right, we won this game. It's on to the next. It's a tougher game next week, et cetera. That's how he's thinking. I think it's right. Because, like, as we've said a million times, this is a tough schedule. The SEC is still wide open. Vanderbilt can still make the playoff. Like, their toughest game left is Tennessee at Tennessee. That Texas game for Vandy's not looking as tough as it used to be.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think, but that's how it is now. Like, it's not the SEC West, and if you lose to Alabama, you have no chance of getting the SEC championship. Therefore, you have no chance of making the playoff. Like, that's gone. And Alabama still has a lot of tough games left. A lot of schools do. So that said, just enjoy it for what it is. It's a fun game. There's a lot of juice to it. There's a lot of different energy that we haven't felt in a while. But it's not an elimination game. It's not the end all be all. And at the end of the day, I think Vandy, for what they are in terms of talent, in terms of recruiting rankings, stacked up fairly well against Alabama for 3 quarters. And Alabama did exactly what it did against Georgia, which was make a play when they needed to in the red zone and then turn around and take the air out of the ball.
Yeah.
And that's how close it is sometimes.
Yeah, that sequence at the end of the half, responding with that quick touchdown, and then the way the defense came out and figured whatever they figured out in the second half was Alabama continuing to develop, continuing to learn, and continuing to show that toughness that, hey, it looked bleak when Pavia went in for that touchdown. Or no, it wasn't Pavia. It was Alexander went in for that touchdown right before the half. And it's like, okay, here we go again. The defense is terrible. They can't tackle anybody. But they're figuring out ways to weather the storm. And that mental toughness, to Mike's point about what the schedule is and what it will be moving forward, you have to have that. You have to be able to weather stuff like this. I'm feeling they're going to need to do it again against Missouri. So they're continuing to show that, I don't know if it's championship medal yet, but they're showing more of it, which obviously there was 0 of it against Florida State. So those are all positives. But yeah, I mean, this is a good Vanderbilt team.
Yeah.
Like, they find ways to put you in bad spots. They find ways to make you look bad. And Alabama just kept responding to that.
Yeah, it's a Vandy team that's still probably going to be ranked today.
Yeah.
When it comes out. And look, I mean, I think I had them 8th in my SEC poll that I submitted this morning. Like, they're a top half of the SEC team to me. Yeah. So, that's good. And look, I think there's a lot of truth to what you're saying in terms of building kind of these qualities.
Mm-hmm.
I do also put a cap on that in terms of how much carries over week to week, because we could probably say the same thing last year. Like, you built championship medal by hanging on against Georgia. You built it by hanging on against South Carolina.
I don't think you did. No, this Alabama team.
They really almost fucked themselves in the South Carolina.
This Alabama team was only good when the going was good last year. This Alabama team is figuring out ways to be good when things are not going well. And they're continuing to stack days, whereas last year was just up and down, up and down, up and down. There's still more to show, and you may end up being right, but this feels very different to me in terms of their mentality, because that last year's team could not take a punch.
No, I agree. To me, it's how much does that carry over game, because each game's its own little thing. And yes, there is like a memory of, we did this against Wisconsin, we did this against Georgia, so we can do it again. But sometimes it just doesn't carry over game to game or even season to season. So I get that concept, but sometimes it just doesn't matter on the field. To me, that's just my personal opinion.
I mean, ultimately you do have to execute, and ultimately it's about talent, and there are talent deficiencies in this team, and there's going to be teams that figure out ways to exploit that. But I think I keep saying every single week, like starting with Louisa Monroe, is this team just has to put one foot in front of the other.
Mm-hmm.
And you will eventually create momentum with that. And I do think there is a toughness that maybe it doesn't win you a game and create a total edge, but it can lose you a game if you don't have it. And right now they're proving that they do have it. So let's see if that continues. And that's ultimately the thing that matters is, it feels like there's more players believing, and it's not just Kalen and it's not just Ty. Like, there are people coming along for the ride, and you can create a tipping point where it's the whole team's there. And that's how teams like Ohio State last year can come back from a terrible performance against Michigan and run the table and win a national championship. Is that the difference maker for Alabama? No. But again, if you don't have that, you can't do anything. So I think they're at least laying the foundation for that. So when they go on the road to Missouri, and I still think it's a trap game, I still think it qualifies.
Right.
There's not that fear that they're going to poop the bed the minute something goes wrong anymore.
Yeah.
Right. But you also don't want overconfidence that it's going to be, we're just going to walk in and do the same thing. If we fall behind by 14 points, we're just going to do what we did the last time that happened.
But you need that. You need a little bit of overconfidence in football.
Right.
And that's the interesting thing you're starting to hear more from DeBoer is there's that, if it's 3rd and 12, we can still convert. Like, we got this. Like, we have that talent. I don't know where exactly I was going with that.
No, I mean, it's an interesting question. Sorry to keep harping on it. It's just because there's going to be a 3rd and 12 that they don't convert, and that puts them in a bad situation. And it's just kind of that you don't want this team to get overconfident, I guess, is because that, again, we talked about it, happened last year. Like, you felt good, and then all of a sudden it doesn't happen the way you thought it was going to happen, and you lose to Oklahoma. Like, you felt good coming off of LSU, and it just doesn't translate to the next game is kind of what I'm getting at. It's almost like you just want to start new every single week. We have to prove it again every single week, and what we did last week doesn't matter. I think that's the right mentality for this team. But I get what you're saying, that you're building a certain quality over the course of the season.
Yeah. And I do think in a roundabout way, I like that Ty threw an interception because I wanted to know how he was going to respond, especially when it looked like Vanderbilt had momentum and was doing what it wanted offensively. And then you have that touchdown late, and the way Ty just doesn't care. It doesn't. I mean, he cares, and you even talk about it in postgame, and he beats himself up a little bit too much, I would argue. But he's not letting it get to him, whereas the last quarterback did. And it's not letting the offense spiral, and the defense is responding. And it's like they're small tests, but they're still important that they're continuing to fight and not let those little moments where there's a big dip and things could go wrong. They're not letting it get really wrong, and they're answering.
And
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'll just transition to the next thing because what I wanted to say is I think Ryan Grubb might be worth 2 wins for this team already this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you do have moments for the offense where you're like, they need to make a play, Ryan Grubb has come up with something that's really out there, but it's worked. The Caden Proctor, 3rd and 1, whatever it's been. Like, there's an answer. As Kalen likes to say, they have the answers to the test. So there was the Caden Proctor play, but even before that, there was, I think, probably one of the more important plays in this game was Ty getting pushed to the right sideline. He was getting pressured again, as he was a decent amount in this game. It was the 3rd and 5 in the 4th quarter after the interception, and he was almost to the sideline. He just kind of flipped it down to Isaiah Horton, and it was a first down. And if that doesn't happen, Alabama's punting back to Vandy with a chance for Vandy again to try to take the lead. So instead, they get the first down and then just bled the clock another 4 or 5 minutes after that. That was a huge play in that game. And it was a play that, if you drew that one up, like, I won't credit that one to Grubb, but like, it worked. Ty made the play, kind of improvised. But in general, yes, I think the offense and its kind of tool bag that they've had under Grubb is bigger than what it was last year.
I don't know what it is about Alabama fans. They hate offensive coordinators. Just hate them. All of them, all the time. There's nothing good enough. And you have to understand what Grubb is ultimately working with. And I thought it was interesting when I looked at the advanced numbers. Like, Jam had a great day. I'm not going to take anything away from Jam. He avoided 2 tackles. 2. That's the offensive line. And I think more than that, that's just scheming, like, to get him opportunities where he's in space. And I don't think that should go unnoticed. And the way they've developed this receiver core, the way, like Kalen talked about, the way they're getting those outside throws, like that whole shot to the left side that Ty threw early in that game was spectacular. They're making them defend the entire field. Mm-hmm. And this is going to be a problem for defensive coordinators moving forward. And you may not love, like, that they go away from the run sometimes. Well, look at the runs that happened before it. They're running into the back of people a lot of the times. Look at the receivers they have. I think Grubb Sheridan, Kalen DeBoer are doing a really terrific job. The entire offense, Ty individually, and the way they're manufacturing a running game. I'm curious. Look, Vanderbilt didn't have a good defense. We knew that coming in. If that will carry over on the road at Missouri, because it will be a really good thing if you can do that and alleviate some of the pressure on this defense that I still think has issues to account for.
Yeah. Kind of sticking on offense, you brought up Jam. I did not have Alabama having a 100-yard rusher on my bingo card. I don't think many people did, and I'm glad you brought up the O-line. The O-line I thought looked great. I think it was Michael Carroll continuing to improve at right tackle. I just think it's, like you said, it's kind of an embarrassment of riches on the outside, and then you add in Jam Miller kind of looking, he had a couple runs into the back, but he had a couple runs the best he's looked in a long time, I think.
There was good and bad from the offensive line. Pressures, they were leaky at times in the pass protection, but they stepped it up in the run game too, though.
Yeah, I think that last try was big for the O-line as well. Like you said, Ty was kind of running around a little bit more than maybe we had expected Vanderbilt. But I'm trying to think. Defense was the big storyline going into this game. I think for us, that was the sexy matchup we wanted to talk about. Was kind of looking around before we came on here. Vanderbilt went away from the run in the second half, but
why?
Which I'm not really sure why. I look in the breakdown here. They had 5 rushes in the first quarter, 6 in the second, 5 in the third, and then 0 in the fourth.
Yeah.
The run defense was a big question mark for Alabama. Has it been answered? Is there still question marks? Mike, Alex, what are we thinking? The guys that stepped up, I think it's improving.
I think there's still questions. Like, to go, we do right as the game goes on. And when they scored that touchdown before the half, LT Overton got himself out of position. Nakai Hillgreen stumbled on nobody, dove at the running back's feet and missed. And Deontay Lawson just whiffed. And Lawson's been a little bit of a problem. And you're writing oh no, here we go again. They made a correction in the second half, but there's still the missed tackles. There's still the gap assignment stuff that was better in the second half that you just got to watch, because you look ahead at what the teams are going to be able to do. Even this weekend, Ahmad Hardy's a really good running back. He might be the best running back in the SEC. Bo Perbula can get out on the outside and run the football. That's a tough matchup for those guys. I think if you want, optimistic, obviously you look at the second half adjustments and what they did, which was really good. Kelby Collins, not on my bingo card, led the team in pressures with 4 pressures. How about that, man? That's great. And, the play of Yanze Pierre on the outside continues to impress me. Justin Hill is more than holding his own. So I think you're trying to find guys that are going to step up. But I do think there's, as I wrote in my post-game column, I think they're taking steps in the right direction. I just don't know what the ceiling is when you have these sort of underlying talent deficiencies in terms of guys who can win one-on-one matchups, what's happening with the inside linebackers, but also just these continued trends of missed tackles as well.
Yeah, you speak of, just real quick, Justin Jefferson. I want to bring, I think he had a great game, and it's kind of funny. I don't want to take credit for it. Someone else put it out there. I don't know who, but he's not in this game if it's not for Diego Pavia getting that granted 6 year, I think it was. So it's just kind of funny.
Good point.
It's just funny to think about. And I'm not taking credit for that. That was on the Twitter space. But Mike, just kind of anything from there?
Yeah, I'm trying to look up.
I thought Eldrick Hill had a pretty good game. I think Yanze was kind of everywhere. I think you're seeing it also out of Justin Hill. He's still a freshman, but there were some plays where he kind of set the edge a little bit. But he doesn't have a choice. He's got to.
How about Damani Jackson setting the edge too? After everyone killed him last week.
Yeah, absolutely. And Zabia, the rotate. Dijon got more run. It seemed like it was kind of more of a maybe a matchup there. I don't know. This kind of seems to be more rotating. Red Morgan was in the game. Dre Kirk's in the fourth quarter. Keon Sabb's in the game. Bray Hubbard's up top. It's just it's pick your poison everywhere along this roster. It feels like. But
I was just looking at missed tackles, and that's kind of a subjective stat. I think ESPN on game day had Alabama with an 80% tackle rate, so a 20% missed tackle rate, which was worse than the SEC is what they had on their screen. PFF, I don't think has them as high. I'm trying to find the right stat there. But in terms of the other side of the ball, Ahmad Hardy right now is tied for second in the country in avoiding tackles. He has 46 avoided tackles.
To be fair, UMass avoids tackling like it's their job. So
right. He did have a number of those against UMass, but
he's a
even
good
against
running
South Carolina, avoided 4. Kansas, he had like 8.
Yeah.
So, you're obviously playing probably the best running back you've seen so far this year, I would say.
Yeah.
And who would be higher on your list?
No, I think you're right. If you throw Tommy Castellanos as a running back in there too, I think.
Right. Yeah. So it's going to be a question every week. I don't know if it's ever going to be fully answered. I think your personnel just dictates having some questions about it. It's not like you're going to have Warren Sapp showing up one day for this team or, Brian Urlacher or somebody. Like, you kind of are just dealing with what you got. And the front seven of this team is not what it was 10 years ago. Alex kind of went through it, but like, there's questions about a lot of guys up there. So they got the job done second half of this game. The first half would be concerning, and just it's kind of what it is. Like, there's good and there's bad. There's good and bad from the Georgia game. There's good and bad from Wisconsin game. Like, I think it's going to be like that for a little while here.
I know this is breaking news, but like, a defense is a lot better when it forces turnovers too. Like, I think, that was the MO of the defense last year that made them look better than I think they were at times. And that's, I think, what happened against Vanderbilt with those interceptions deep in their territory. So,
well, one of those was a fumble.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
Pavia's elbow is down a second sooner or a half second sooner. That's Vandy's ball. And then conversely, if Ty Simpson's forearm goes down a little bit later, then that's going the other way. Look, the game.
The margin for error is this, but
right.
That's not so much an indictment on Alabama as it is just that's the state of football now.
Right. That's the ball bouncing a certain way. I mean, you're not.
And I think you're right. People should embrace that. It's fun. Like, it's why nobody 5 years ago would have bothered watching Texas, Florida. They would have said Florida's toast. Texas is great. All those things. And look what happened.
We may get into a quick national minute at the end because, like you said, it's been up and down everywhere. But I do want to give Alex credit with Deontay Lawson. They definitely brought him down to the edge. And there was a couple times where it was noticeable that he was kind of the first one off the ball on plays a lot. So I think it could continue to do that. Brought something earlier in the show, and it's kind of reminded me 3rd and 12 in the red zone. And, hey, we can convert this. But if you can't, your special teams, again, I feel like, a broken record, but it is, again, I'm going to bring it up because it has to be brought up. And that game could look a whole lot different. It could have been a 1-point game in the first half. You were coaching differently then on that. So just not really a question. I kind of just ranted.
No, it's true. I mean, Talty hit the couple of field goals, the shorter ones later on in the game that, the first one was particularly important. It made it a 2-possession game, but that miss earlier, that's his 3rd miss already. And anything longer is you're not feeling too confident, and you're really, I think, putting yourself in a spot where you want to go for it in 4th down more often. And that's probably what they're going to have to do. Now, I would feel pretty good about this offense going forward in 4th down, given what we said about Grubb and Ty and all that. But there's also times that's not going to work either. And there's times this season it hasn't worked. But I don't know. I don't think there's a fix coming for Connor Talty. I think you just have to keep pumping him full of confidence and keep having him kick and hope that it turns out better. Your backup is Peter Notaro, who's a freshman. So,
but as you point this out, and this is not Nick Saban, who never adjusted the depth chart after the first week.
Right.
There's an or at place kicker.
Mm-hmm.
What does that
mean?
That's
been there all year.
Yeah.
And there was legitimately a competition. If you listen to Jay Nunez in the fall, like he said, there was a competition. So,
but there was an or at backup running back, and that's gone.
Right.
Now, clearly, Kevin. So they're not afraid to adjust it if they see separation.
And right. And if you talk about the offensive line, that's what Kalen said, or even the quarterback thing with Ty and Austin early in the year. Like, why not have competition?
Yeah.
So why not have Notaro kick a field goal? I don't know. it's one of those where it's like you just don't know whether, and it's obviously the road games. I think you're going to feel a little bit more skeptical about South Carolina and Auburn in particular. You just have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah, 100%. Mike, as always, has got a great recap about the snap counts. We do want to talk about it. Jane Roberts, Cam Calhoun did not play in the game.
Can I just before we get away from special teams, let's not forget they were backed up after that sack that Ty allowed.
Yeah,
and they punted from their own 8-yard line.
Yeah, 35.
Down a 30-yard punt. And that set Vandy up at the 38-yard line, and they scored a touchdown. So let's not forget about the punting side of it either.
Absolutely. 100%. We're going to continue to talk about special teams because it has clearly been an issue and might continue to be too. But again, like I said, great snap count. A lot of interesting stuff on there. It's kind of good to see, numbers and production wise. And, you look at London Simmons, 9 snaps, was pretty productive in his limited play. But Jane Roberts did not see the field. Cam Calhoun did not see the field. I wouldn't really put those in the same category if you were like, are you surprised? Little surprised about Roberts. Cam Calhoun hasn't played all year. I don't really think that's much of a shock. I think maybe the storyline here, what Mike has up and we caught, is some unhappy mothers with the staff, which I think you kind of see everywhere around the country. But yeah, Jane Roberts' mother, not too happy. Cam Calhoun's mother, not too happy. Let's start with Roberts. I think it's just cut and dry. There's better football players, and there's guys playing better along the line.
It's not a health thing. Everybody wants to make it a health thing. And people forget that they created a competition before he had the concussion, and he got cleared before the first game. It's not that. It's just he underperforms based on his talent. And I think while Gino's not perfect, I think he overperforms his talent. And I think they're figuring out some things with William Sanders, with kicking Michael Carroll inside. Look,
kicking Wilkin inside, putting Carroll.
Yeah. There are no hidden motives. This team is desperate to win football games. It's not complicated. If he was good enough to play, he would play. They're playing everybody else.
So that's what I was going to say. It's
and the same thing applies to Calhoun. And maybe Calhoun is a project and it's next year. Maybe he's on another team next year. Are they, what's the conversations happening before they get those guys? Are there things being told and promises being made? I don't know, but ultimately it's a game of football. And, I get mothers getting upset, but it's that old Nick Saban thing. If you want to know why your son's not playing, ask your son. It's not complicated. Yeah. He's just not making plays. Do you think in their heart of hearts, they'd rather put a true freshman out there on the field or put a guy who's played 3 years? I think they'd rather trust the guy who played 3 years. So it tells you what's happening in practice.
Right. It's like the people on our board who want Keon Keeley just out there for the sake of it. I'm like,
they're
playing the best players they think will help win the game. Their job is to win the game, not to get all Herm Edwards on people, but that's their job. So, and that's been the story the entire time. When Roberts was not with the first team at the beginning of camp, everybody was like, "Oh, don't overreact to it." And then the concussion happened, and it's because of his health, and he'll be back. And it's been kind of obvious all along that it's not something where they felt like he was just entitled to a starting spot. And look, for even a guy like Cam Dewberry, who came in from A&M, this is his last chance too. And he's getting taken off the field for William Sanders. If you're Kalen DeBoer, it's just, I think you preached a message of there's a certain level of sacrifice for the team that needs to happen. If you guys want to win a national championship, you may not play as much as you want, but we're going to play the best players. And not everybody's going to be on board with that, but the good news to them is that the portal doesn't open until January 2nd. So there's nowhere where these guys can go.
Might be playing for a game after January 2nd.
Right. Exactly. So, it's you signed up for it. There's literally revenue sharing contracts, I guess, not theoretically a legal contract, but there's revenue sharing. So you're paying them and you're getting paid either way. So,
and I think in a way, it's almost worth revisiting. This is different, right? Last year, they gave guys the benefit of the doubt. who returned. And that just flew out the window this year. And they just said, it's based on what you're doing, and there's competition in every position. And a lot of coaches say that, but not a lot of coaches tend to act that out sometimes, because there is money on the table, and some guy might be making more money than the other guy, but you got to do what you got to do. And I think this team, ever since that Florida State game, just said, screw everything. Like, everything's a competition. Everything's wide open. There's no room for feelings. We're just going to go win football games. And if that means rotating everybody on the offensive line, fine. If that means telling Ty Simpson, Austin Mack is going to get a series in the first half, fine. Like, none of that matters anymore. It's the NFL now. Like, there's no room for feelings anymore.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say, is that players, especially at this level of ball, are rightfully concerned about their NFL future. If you're Jaden Roberts, you're rightfully concerned about your NFL future. Cam Cahoon, Cam Dewberry, all these guys. A lot of other transfers aren't playing. Brody Dalton came here as a fifth-year transfer from Troy. He's not playing at tight end. Dre Washington came here as a fifth-year transfer from Louisiana. He's not playing at running back. Not just them. And all those guys, I'm sure, had a certain desire that we're trying to get into the NFL. But guess what? I covered the NFL for 9 years. This is how it works. You're not going to be entitled to a single thing in the NFL either. So
if you can't win a competition in Alabama, you're not going to win a competition in the NFL. I hate to say it, but it's the absolute truth.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else kind of to wrap up just this Roll Pod reaction coming out of Alabama Vanderbilt?
I wish I could pull up the stat Mike had about Rico, Lotsier, and who's the third receiver?
Well, it was the top four receivers, including Ryan. It was Ryan, Jeremy Horton, and Lotsier. 30, 66, 82, 98, whatever that adds up to. That's how many yards they had.
Yeah.
And
you're getting I was just going to say the depth at receiver is starting to show in a major way. When you got Rico catching a pass over the middle, Lotsier making a catch, you know what you're getting out of now Ryan, Jerm, and Horton. And they all do a little bit different things, man. It's with Ty playing the way he is right now, there's a lot to like about this passing game. And I think there's a breakout game coming where it's, Ty will plant the flag, Heisman, and this receiver core will be able to say, not only do we have the potential to be the best in the country, I think they're putting in the work to have that be the truth.
They might already have broken out. But yeah, there's probably more to be.
There hadn't been like a huge game, like none of the game that mattered. Like, all due respect,
Bryce Young, 500 something yards against Arkansas in 2021.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the strength of your team. I've said it 16,000 times now. Like, you're going as far as Ty Simpson and the receivers bring you, because that's what allows you to cover up for whatever's happening in the running game. That's what allows you to cover up for whatever happens in the run defense and on defense. And yes, you need those areas of the ball to get better, but as long as your receivers and quarterback are playing really well, you're going to put yourself in a pretty good spot every game, at least close to being able to win. So it's just, there's too much for teams to cover at receiver right now, especially when you combine it with the ingenuity of Ryan Grubb. Like, that's really tough. And that's what
credit Cuevas for making some plays too. He's been doing pretty well in the passing game.
When Cuevas is catching 3 balls for, I think it was averaging of a first down, that helps. That certainly helps.
And that's something that I think Kalen mentioned. I think it was his pregame interview, talking about like how they still want to get other parts involved. They don't want it just to be receivers. They want the tight ends and running backs to be involved. So teams truly have to cover everybody. So I think that is at least partly intentional.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They want to get the focus away from Caden. There's too much tape on Caden.
We got to come up with a new position name. I tried to ask Caden, like, are you a jumbo receiver? Are you jumbo fullback? Are you offensive tackle? He's I'm an offensive tackle. But we need to come up with another name. Maybe it's just athlete.
For the video gamers out there, he's able to be like a tight end now on like college football. So
he's a king-sized athlete.
Yeah. Quick national minute. I wrote down a couple notes. I said, James Franklin dead, Bill Belichick.
Oh,
yeah.
All right.
Like dead man walking. And bad day to be a Gator. I don't know what you are thinking if you're a Florida fan, because I don't know. Texas is terrible. Arch stinks. But Billy I don't know. It's just
maybe Florida. You know how every team says like 1-0 mentality, 1-0 mentality.
Yeah.
I think Florida should be 0-2 mentality. Like that's when they wake up and they're like, oh shit, we got to play football now.
Someone said it was like the best team in the country is like an 0-2 Florida, like a billion a must win is like the Gators are the best team in the country. But it's just like it's crazy. Then you look out west of a classic UCLA Penn State Big Ten matchup, and they shit the bed. I mean, and
you know what I feel a little bit good for is Nico. I do feel a little good for Nico, and I know he's not blameless in the offseason fiasco, but he wasn't as bad as 0-4. And for him to go out there and have a little moment is good. I don't know if it translates to anything the rest of the year, but man, who would have thought that James Franklin isn't good at coaching pivotal games? No evidence for that, is there?
Yeah. The other side of my Bill Belichick note is Dabo and the Tigers back on track. Congratulations, Mr. Mike. Not really.
That's somebody had victory lap when it's UNC.
That was the joke. Wow. And then also, Miami's the best team in the country.
Yeah, it looks at Carson. Mike can take it back with Carson Beck. I don't think I ever disagreed with him, but Carson Beck's a really good quarterback.
I'm surprised they're not the favorite right now to win a national championship because of their path through the ACC. Mm-hmm. They're probably going to get a first-round bye as long as they don't screw it up. Like they're.
Yeah, it's still crystal.
They're not. They're like their fourth highest odds right now, but they're not number one. It's interesting.
Right.
They could be number one in the poll today.
Yeah, and what's up with Florida State, man? It's back-to-back lame duck games. Not good for Alabama's resume, but I think Alabama's fine if they have, as long as they don't, have three more losses. But
yeah, I think it's like week by week, there's more clarity. I feel like it's like more confusion every week. Yeah. The parity is just insane.
I don't know if Alabama can afford 2 more losses, but they can afford 1.
Yeah. How will the selection committee screw this up? Because in past years, it hasn't been as hard as it's looking like it might be this year.
Absolutely.
It's the scenario where Alabama has 2 more losses, thus having 3 when it starts to come into play. How strong is Florida State? How strong is Georgia? Et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Right. Absolutely. Well, loaded Roll Pod reaction. Like I said, Alabama coming off a 30-14 win over Vanderbilt. Crimson Tide traveling to Missouri for a 11 a.m. kick next Saturday. We will have full coverage per usual leading up. Mike will be in Columbia for that. We will be back on Roll Pod on Wednesday. Thank you guys and enjoy the rest of your Sunday.